Good morning. Well, good morning for me. I don't, good morning, good evening, good night. A streaming would say for you. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. Not that much different. Today I wanted to go over anger and bipolar disorder. I found this really cool, or not really cool, but I found some articles and some information about by being bipolar and and anger and having like anger issues, anger problems. I know for me personally, I am quick to anger. I'll say that. And not so much in like a violent way or anything like that. Just more that like I get irritated really, really fucking easily. Usually by dumb shit. Like something small, like. And most of the time, I'm irritated at myself. More than anything else, I get irritated at myself for doing dumb shit. And most of the time, it's stuff that I could avoid. Something like carrying too much shit in my hands while trying to open the front door. And then I drop the eggs, which hasn't ever happened, but as an example. Sorry. So anger is, I am quick to anger, but again, it's usually over something stupid and small. It's not usually over anything that's like really, really, if I get really angry about something, I shut down. I get quiet. That's how you know I'm really pissed off about something, is because I get quiet, I don't talk. Usually, if I'm really pissed off, I'll go start cleaning shit. I don't know why, but like, that's my way of coping with anger, is cleaning. That might be a military thing. That might be an army thing that, like, it was just drilled into us that everything had to be fucking clean. And then when you didn't have anything else to do, you cleaned. When you finished cleaning, you cleaned more. And then when you thought it was clean, it wasn't clean. You had to clean it again. So I think just now, whenever I'm pissed off, that's what I do. I just revert back to cleaning. I think that's just my kind of coping mechanism. So I just kind of wanted to go over a little bit of what it's like, or just kind of some of the information that I found. While it's not an officially recognized symptom of bipolar disorder, irritability is common with dramatic mood shifts, which can lead to angry outbursts and explosions with devastating effects. There's a quote by a Dr. Guy Winch. Irritability is something we all experience, but what sets it apart from other emotional states is the extent to which it pollutes the emotional atmosphere around us. Indeed, irritability is the carbon monoxide of emotional pollutants. I thought that was a pretty cool quote, because, irritability is the carbon monoxide of emotional pollutants. That's a pretty profound thing to say. That's pretty deep. That's pretty in there. I don't know. Every time I read that, it kind of hits me a little bit harder every time I see it. And it's just, I don't know. It is important to distinguish, however, everyday anger from irritable anger associated with bipolar disorder. Everyday anger as an emotion is a response to an event broadly understood to evoke frustration, disappointment, offense, not defense, no, and or anger in most people, including those living with bipolar, can be a healthy, even meaningful tool within boundaries. The irritable anger associated with bipolar is most often associated with a mood episode, a reaction that would be broadly considered disproportionate to a situation or trigger a more intense reaction to events, and frequently can be more eruptive. Again, doing too much at one time, that is a big problem for me. And another thing is, I'm always in a hurry to get nowhere. Like, for some reason, I am always in a rush. I don't know why. I'm not going anywhere. Like, I'm not in a rush to, like, I'm going to get where I'm going 20 minutes early, and then I'm going to end up sitting there, and then I'm going to get pissed off at myself for being there for 20 fucking minutes with nothing to fucking do. You know, like, then I get irritable, and then I get anxious because I'm sitting there with nothing to do, and I'm irritated because I'm anxious, and I'm anxious because I'm irritated, and it's just a vicious fucking cycle that never ends. And so, like, I see, I'm, like, getting kind of irritated right now a little bit, you know, but I can see the eruptive, like, the eruptiveness of it, because, like, I don't necessarily, like, bite my girlfriend's head off, but, like, I will snap, you know, or I'll get, what's the word I'm looking for? Not snippy. Snippy is the word I'm looking for. You know what I mean? Like, I'll get, like, quick response, you know, yes or no, you know, real short answers. Like, it's pretty obvious that I'm pissed off. And she knows, like, she usually knows that, like, hey, he's in a pissy mood. Let me leave him alone. And the thing is, like, most of the time, I just need a few minutes to just kind of gather myself, get my shit together, calm the fuck down, and then we can move on from it. Most of the time, I don't even want to fucking talk about it. I want to get through it, move on, and then be done, and then it's over. That doesn't always happen with your partner. Sometimes your partner wants to drag the shit out and wants to talk about it and talk about it and talk about it. Or gets mad because you don't want to talk about it, which irritates you even more. Like, I feel like anger and irritability and bipolar disorder are like best friends. They, like, go hand in hand. They're like married. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you can't be bipolar without having some sort of, like, irritable anger issue. Not to, like, the Adam Sandler anger management issue, but, like, was that Adam Sandler? It was Robert De Niro, but I think it was Robert. Fuck it. You know what movie I'm talking about? Anger management. Anyway, the point of it was, like, I feel like you can't have, and maybe you can. I don't know. I can't speak for everybody that has bipolar, because I don't know everybody that has bipolar disorder. And bipolar is different for everybody. It manifests in different ways for everybody. But I do know that irritability, for me personally, is, like, a huge deal with my bipolar. And something I was reading, it kind of makes me want to, like, go back and kind of talk to my doctor about it, because, like, I have bipolar 1 disorder, and which is pretty fucking intense. Not to say that, like, one is more than the other, but just to say that, like, bipolar 1 is fucking hard to deal with, because it's so intense. Like, there's so much emotion that comes with having bipolar, period. But bipolar 1 specifically, for me, is, like, there's so much emotion that goes into it. And, like, you can get, like, astrological or whatever, like my girlfriend likes to do, and, you know, and you can say that it's, like, you know, because I'm a Libra and double Cancer, you know, or whatever. So I'm, like, an air and water sign, so I'm super emotional and floaty and flighty, and my head's always up in the clouds, which isn't completely inaccurate. All of that is pretty accurate. But I don't feel like it's because I'm a double Cancer. I feel like it's because I have fucking bipolar disorder, you know. So I feel like, to me, it's one of those things that, like, they kind of go hand in hand. You know what I mean? Like, if you have bipolar disorder, you're probably gonna have an anger issue, of some sort. But, like, what, like, causes of anger? So, like, irritability and anger are associated with all mood episodes, so it's important to monitor when and how anger manifests throughout the mood spectrum. This allows individuals to identify their personal triggers for bipolar anger. Common triggers include decreased sleep, increased anxiety, medication changes or lapses, hormonal changes, increased stress, all of which most people, I feel like, with bipolar disorder, we all experience that. Especially, like, decreased sleep. There's your mania. Increased anxiety. That's on a daily fucking basis. Medication changes or lapses. that can happen just because the other two things are happening. Because you're having less sleep and because you're having increased anxiety, you might have to change your medication, which can cause more decreased sleep or cause more anxiety. Like, I know I had to take anxiety pills, but also have to be very careful with that because those anxiety pills can cause my depression or throw me into a depressive state. And so I have to be careful when and how I take my anxiety medication, because if I like, I don't go to parties, but like, let's say if I was to go to, because I don't drink or do drugs or anything, but, and that's not the only reason I don't go to parties, but anxiety is more the reason why I don't go to parties. And I'm also 36 years old, and parties are just kind of not my scene anymore. Um, so, but I mean, like, so medication changes, and even like I've personally had to switch medicines. The only thing that I've stayed consistent on since I started like actually taking medication for bipolar disorder is lamotrigine. It's the only thing that's stayed consistent. I've gone through all kind of different things, and like now I'm on Wellbutrin, which seems to work pretty well. Okay, so Wellbutrin, that's another thing. Like, so I'm talking about medication, like Wellbutrin, I used to take two a day. I had to take one in the morning and one at night. And it got to the point that like my irritability was fucking not good. It was real bad. And so we ended up having to switch. We had to cut back. I can only take one Wellbutrin a day now. And I feel like, honestly, I feel like the Wellbutrin helps, but I'm kind of at a point now where I feel like I might need to switch to a different medication because I do feel like my irritability is still there. But again, I only sleep 3, maybe 4 hours a night, maybe. On a good night. So, and that's with sleep medication. And so like I'm still not I think for me, it's a combination of all of it. Like, I think decreased sleep, increased anxiety, hormonal changes. And so that's another thing. Like, I don't like having an addiction with bipolar disorder is very, very common. And whenever you have an addiction, they say that whenever you, like, for me, it was alcohol. They say when you start drinking is when you stop maturing. You stop you stop growing up. And like your mental state stops at whatever age you started drinking. Well, I started drinking pretty young. I started drinking when I was like 12, 13 years old, and I'm 36, and I've been sober for 3.5 years. So like over 20 years that I drank, heavily, I would say heavily drank for probably about 10 to 12 years. But, when you are putting your body through that, like through that addiction, your hormones are all irregulated and all kind of messed up and all kind of all kind of all over the place. And so like whenever you get sober, those hormones have to start balancing, and they have to start you start learning new emotions and like new things that you didn't know. Like I get sad really easy. Like I hate to admit this, and it's not like it's only because it's you guys that I'm able to share this with, but like I get teary-eyed at almost any emotional scene in any movie. Like like The Notebook fucking tears me apart. Like, I'll be honest with you. That movie is like it's a tearjerker. It's like you can't help if you don't fucking tear up at least once during that movie, you have no soul. I'm joking there. I don't want to get in trouble with anybody, but it's such a but that's an emotion that like I never would have had before. Whenever I was drinking, I would just be like, this is a fucking stupid movie. I would have got more drunk just to avoid having to pay attention to it, to be honest with you. But once I was sober, I was watching it, was like, I mean, you just couldn't help yourself. It's ridiculous. I don't know. But anyway, but I digress. We're kind of getting off topic here, but that's what I do because, bipolar, ADHD, anger and mania and or hypomania. So when bipolar anger is connected to hypomania, to a hypomanic or manic episode. It can initially manifest as anxiety, impatience, irritability, and rudeness. Yeah, sorry about that. In 2005, researchers at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston found that 40% of patients with bipolar had significant levels of irritability within a 1 week period. If not caught early and managed adequately, irritability can escalate to hostility, explosive outbursts, and sudden rage. Yeah. So let's go back to the anxiety, impatience, and irritability and rudeness. Sorry about the coughing. I hit my vape before this, and it's just been kicking my butt since then. So, yeah, back to the anxiety and impatience. My impatience is horrible. And it's because okay, so I just don't have patience for, I don't even know how to explain it. Okay, so here's an example. My girlfriend takes forever to get in or out of the car. We get into the car, here's me. I get into the car, I start the car, I hook my phone up, I wait for it to load, and then I'm gone. The longest part of me being, me starting my car is waiting for my phone to sync up to my car, so, through CarPlay or whatever, so that I can actually, use the GPS and Spotify and all that without having to, hands-free or whatever. Which irritates me, because I have to sit there and wait for a fucking phone to load. You see what I'm saying? So it's one of those frustrating things. I don't know. But for me, it's real simple. You get in, you start the car, you go. Unless it's cold or whatever, or it's hot, and then you want to go start the car early and then let it run, cool off, warm up, whatever. But if I'm let's say I'm in a hurry, I'm late for class or something, and I go to start, I run, I get in my car, I start it, and I go. There's no, I don't have to get in. She'll get in, she'll, search through playlists for music to listen to. She'll, text somebody or whatever it is the fuck she does. But, it takes her 10 minutes to get in the car and take off. I can't do that. Or even when she gets home, she'll call me and say something like, hey, I'm pulling into the parking lot. Can you come downstairs and help me with the dog? Yeah, no problem. And she's like, I'm pulling into the parking lot now. I'm like, all right, cool. So knowing that she's going to still take about 2 extra minutes before she even pulls up to the parking spot in the parking lot, I will wait a couple of minutes, and then I go downstairs, and then I still end up waiting. She finally pulls into the spot, and then she sits there, and now I'm sitting here looking like an idiot, waiting for her to come, to turn off the car. You know what I mean? I feel stupid, and then, I gotta wait, and she's turning off her music, she's texting her mom back, or whatever, whatever it is, and then, so it's just one of the, I just, that kind of irritates me. My biggest pet peeve in the world, and is to hear people chew, or to hear people eat. I can't even stand to hear myself eat. I have to turn on TV or music. I don't even give a shit what's on, just as long as there's something in the background so that I don't hear myself chew or I don't hear somebody else chewing, because it bugs the ever-loving piss right out of me. And so that, and that leads to those outbursts, or sudden rage. I will find myself talking about something and get pissed off. Let's say my girlfriend and I are watching something, and somebody says something on TV, and I'm like, no, fuck that bitch. That bitch does not know what she's talking about. She's stupid, blah, blah, blah. And I'll go off on this 10-minute rant about some stupid lady on on Survivor because she said something dumb, or he, he said whatever. Not trying to be gender specific or whatever, or discriminate against anybody. I'm just saying, somebody might say something stupid, and I'm like, that's absolutely, bullshit, and and I lose my shit on TV over fucking Survivor. Like, it's a TV show. And I'll lose my absolute fucking mind sometimes. Um, and like, and my girlfriend, she just kind of sits there and she has this look on her face like, you're getting really mad about about nothing. Like, you need to chill the fuck out. It's like I get those explosive outbursts and the sudden rage. Um, Anger and irritability are often associated with depressive episodes, especially if a person has an anxiety disorder or dealing with an agitated depression. As with manic or hypomanic episodes, bipolar anger and depression can also take the form of frustration, impatience, and eventual hostility or rage called anger attacks. So I'll say I've never had anger attacks. I've never like attacked anybody because I was mad or anything. In fact, I rarely ever get into like any kind of real altercations. Even when I was younger, I didn't get into too many of them. For my size, I'm not a big guy, but I can get pretty loud, which scares people sometimes. Because people like they look at this little person, and then this little person gets real fucking loud and in their face, and like I can be intimidating for a small person. I can get up in a big person's face and make them feel real small, real fast, and like not to like boost my masculinity or anything like that. I'm just saying that like people are scared of crazy people, and when you piss me off, I get in your face and I seem like a fucking crazy person. Like, I don't give a shit if I live or die. I only give a shit whether you live or die. Like, that sounds horrible too. That sounds really, really bad. But like, when it comes to that, like, there is no, like, if it's gotten to the point where we're about to actually fist fight, all bets are off. I don't give a shit anymore because at that point I'm defending myself, and if I'm defending myself, I'm gonna win. I don't give a shit if I gotta pick up an equalizer and beat your ass with a fucking a pogo stick. That's what I'll fucking do. Do you see right here, anger? Like I didn't even like. I'm not even talking about anything really, and that's anger. That's irritation. That's frustration over hypotheticals. Like, and that's the thing is like I will get so mad or frustrated over hypothetical shit that hasn't happened, won't happen, or like I get so irritated over hypotheticals, like, and I work myself up into real tizzies about hypothetical shit. Like, I'm constantly in my head about hypothetical shit. I don't know, it's intense. But I would never say that I've had like an anger attack, like I've never attacked anybody or like fought somebody or anything like that because I was irritable or angry. Screamed at them maybe, but never like actually physically put my hands on anybody. So anger attacks, when not well managed, and especially during acute mood episodes, anger can result in explosive outbursts and aggression. In 2004, a study published in the Journal of Affective Disorders reported that at least a third of bipolar patients described angry outbursts called anger attacks. Recognizing, preventing, and managing anger bipolar, effectively addressing anger typically depends on self-awareness, stress reduction, and identifying and managing personal triggers. Increase self-awareness and mindfulness. Journal regularly. These are different things like ways to manage your typical anger issues, or to like reduce stress, or increase self-awareness. So increase self-awareness and mindfulness. Journal regularly. Track symptoms and moods. That's a big one for me. I tried to do that, and it does help. I will say it does help because you can kind of get an idea of like, okay, because it helps identify your triggers. It can help you say, okay, well, on this day I was depressed, but I was depressed because of this, or, was I depressed because of anything in particular, or was I frustrated all day that day? What was it that made me frustrated? Things like that. So tracking your mood and your symptoms, to me, is really, really helpful. I don't do it as much as I should. I'm 100% honest about that, but it does help. It is. I think it's a helpful tool. Focusing on the present moment. That is so difficult for me to do, just because I'm constantly hypotheticals. I'm constantly living in hypotheticals. I cannot stay out of hypotheticals. I don't know why. I'm constantly in this like hypothetical what if, and if type of life, and I need to get out of that. I need to learn how to live more in the present moment and not in the what if, what could happen type lifestyle. Um, Pause to reflect before reacting. That is a big one for me. I a lot of times, and I'm getting better at it. I'm starting to get better. I think that comes with older age, maturity. You learn to slow down, and you learn to just kind of say, okay, is what I'm about to say actually worth saying, or is it worth like is what's about to come out of my mouth worth the air, worth the breath that I'm about to waste saying it? like, is that actually useful? Is it worth it? You know. So like pausing to reflect before I actually like say anything or react to a situation is hard, but it does take practice, but it does help. Reduce stress and anxiety with relaxation techniques. So a lot of these have to do with like meditation type things, or self-awareness, like deep breathing, visualization, listening to calming music, focusing on engaging task or hobby, meditation, regular exercise, follow a daily routine, practicing good sleep hygiene. I am fucking horrible at that. I don't know why or what the problem is, but I don't sleep. I just don't sleep. I wish I did, but I don't, which also helps go into my, or like push my frustration and my irritability. This is a good one I really liked, because it's something that I think that if you can do this, a lot of the other things will kind of fall in place. So like, establish and stick to a plan for addressing anger outbursts at the earliest sign. Reach out for support from loved ones, in-person, online support groups, and treatment team members. If you can set up a daily routine or a plan, if you can establish a plan that says, okay, whenever I get angry, this is what I'm going to do, it helps you start doing things like pause and reflect before you react. And if you have that plan in place, most of the time you're going to do that without even realizing that you're doing it. Like you're going to find yourself stopping and looking back and saying, should I really say this? Should I do this? And it just kind of falls into place, I think, once you have, and I think that's something that your doctor and your family need to sit down and come up with a plan together, because it's not like if you just try to come up with a plan by yourself, you're probably going to fail, because we as bipolar people tend to do that. We will set ourselves up for failure by doing something like that. Like, okay, I'm going to set this plan in motion. I'm going to, it's going to work out perfectly fine. I'm going to stick to it every single day and blah, blah, blah. But then it's hard for us to hold ourselves accountable for it, or to actually stick to it. It's easier when you have other people involved, because they can keep you accountable. They can say, hey, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Here's how, we need to get you back on track. And so I think having that support system, and I've preached this a million times, having a support system is like the number one thing that anybody with any kind of mental disorder, really anybody period, should have, but especially if you have a mental disorder like bipolar disorder, having a support team and support system around you is like imperative, especially specifically for me, because I'm a recovering alcoholic and I have bipolar disorder. I have to have other people be like, hey, put yourself in check, little homie, because you about to go off the deep end, and sometimes that's humbling, sometimes that's fucking irritating, and it pisses you off, but at the same time, when you go back and you reflect on it, you realize that was a humbling experience, and it made me appreciate the fact that somebody there gave a shit enough about me to say, hey, you need to fucking check yourself, because you about to wreck yourself. I hope people get some of the references that I say, because, like, I'm 36 years old, so, like, I'm used to a lot of, like, old references, and I use them a lot, and I hope that people get them. Like, my audience is generally about my age, so I feel like most of you get it, most of you get the references, but for any of the, like, younger audiences, or, like, the older audiences, like, if you don't get it, send me a message, let me know or something, and I'll try and explain it. I don't know. But anyway, it has become increasingly clear that many people fall on the bipolar spectrum, which involves a wide range of symptoms that vary in severity and encompass both high and low moods. When experienced simultaneously, it's called a mixed episode. So here's a problem I find with that statement. It says, increasingly clear that many people fall on the bipolar spectrum. I don't agree with that. I will agree that most people fall on the autistic spectrum, because that spectrum is so much wider. There are so many different symptoms and so many different diagnoses that come along with autism that it's more people fall on that spectrum. In fact, everybody falls on that spectrum. It just depends on where on that spectrum you fall, as far as how severe your I don't want to say something, your diagnosis might be. Like my uncle has Down syndrome. That is hardcore on the autistic spectrum. Like that's way on the spectrum. That's not like, oh well, he kind of has some quirks about him. Like, no, my uncle has full-blown fucking Down syndrome, has the brain of a 7-year-old, and he's in his fucking 60s. Like, he's real autistic. And which I'm gonna go, and this might piss some people off, but it pisses me off because it takes away from the fact that I am bipolar, and it takes away from the severity of my disease. My issue is that it has become so increasingly prominent, or like, so many people these days are saying things that they're autistic. I'm on this app because I'm a student. I'm on this app called Yik Yak, which is supposed to be anonymous or whatever, and it is, I guess. But the thing is that, like, there's so many people on there that are like, it must be my autism that's acting up today, and that's why I can't focus. Like, no, bitch, you can't focus because you stayed up all night drinking and fucking partying, and now you can't. You stayed up till 3 in the fucking morning, and now you have class at 8, and you can't. You didn't do any homework last night. That's why. That's what your fucking problem is. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that you're autistic. Like, no, I have bipolar disorder, ADHD, anxiety. I was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome because I had facial tics. Like, I have actual fucking issues, and whenever I hear somebody say something like, oh, it's just my autism acting up today, or, I can't sleep because of my autism, or, what it's like to be autistic, and then they post this fucking picture of a werewolf or some shit, like, get the fuck over yourself. That's not the same thing. That's not the same thing, and for you to sit there and take that and minimize the fact that people live with real, actual issues pisses me the fuck off. See, here we go, irritability. And but I feel like that's a real issue to be irritable and angry about, because you're diminishing my problems, the things, my daily issues, the struggles that I have to live with on a daily routine, on a daily basis. You're sitting here and saying that, oh, you can't get your homework done because your autism is acting up. Autism doesn't act up. Autism isn't a flare up like gout or something. It doesn't just act up. No, autism is autism. You either have it or you don't. You're either. I mean, again, everybody's on that spectrum, but you're either autistic or you're fucking not. You know, like, I don't see how you can sit there and say, you know, oh, it's my autism acting up today, and that's why I couldn't focus in class. And okay, well then you might want to just say you have ADHD. That's what you have. To sit there and say, oh, I'm autistic, to use that word autistic takes away from people who who have like real actual autism. People who sit there and saying stuff like, oh, it's my autism that's acting up today. Well, yeah, well, my uncle doesn't get the choice of whether or not his shit acts up or not. He doesn't get flare-ups. He gets every fucking single day. He has Down syndrome. Every single day he wakes up and he has the same fucking day every single day. Why? Because if he doesn't, it'll blow and fricassee his fucking mind because he's autistic. That is autism. To sit there and say that you couldn't get your homework done because you were autistic, piss the fuck off. Sorry. That was my little rant, and again, that might make a lot of people mad. I might even lose some people, you know, and that's fine. I'm not doing this so that I can make fans. I'm glad that I make fans, and I'm glad that you guys are, that you're sticking around, that you're coming around, and that, that you listen and everything. But I do this for two reasons. The first one is to hopefully so that somebody else sitting out there listens to this and says, you know what? I'm not the only one going through this shit. I'm not the only person out there that feels this way. I'm not the only one, because I have sat in the shadows and sat by myself for so long, questioning myself and questioning my sanity and whether or not I was okay and whether or not I was a good person, because I never felt like there was anybody out there who felt the same way that I did. I happened to come across another podcast by a lady named Anastasia, who runs a podcast called what's her now I can't think of it. I'll have to give another shout out. I'll try and put it in the post in the comments below or whatever. But listening to her was what really it inspired me to do this, because she was the first person that I'd heard actually, like, she was going through a lot of the same shit that I was going through, and I could relate to her. So the number one reason I do this is to relate to other people, so that other people can relate to me, or to at least my experiences, and say, hey, okay, I'm not the only one. And the second reason I do this, and it's a little less important, but it's important for me, is I do it for me. Because this is a way for me to get my shit off my chest, and for me to get things out there that, again, hopefully help somebody else say, okay, I'm not alone in this. I'm not in this fight alone. That there are other people who are struggling and fighting and trying to do things that are positive. I want to bring light to the situation of bipolar disorder. I don't feel like enough people will know about it, understand it, or are willing to understand it. And that's frustrating. Sorry, I just went off on a gnarly 10-minute rant, and I didn't mean to, but that's irritability for you. That's bipolar and irritability for you. So let's get back to it. According to Dean Frederick McKinnon, a medical doctor, associate professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine in Baltimore, people who are actively in the mixed state of bipolar illness have the propensity to develop rapid responses to elevated levels of frustration. Their reaction and range of emotion is incongruous, out of proportion, with the actual level of stressor. When energized by elevated mood states, they can get angry with little provocation. Again, just kind of restating that it doesn't take much to set us off. So what are the signs that you have a chronic anger management problems, or the kind of uncontrollable anger associated with bipolar episodes? According to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration, you're constantly angry or annoyed or are quick to overreact. I think these are for if you just have anger issues. Like you're constantly angry or annoyed and are quick to overreact. You've gotten in trouble with at work or with the law. The way you express your anger at loved ones, friends, neighbors, or coworkers has caused serious relationship problems. You frequently lash out verbally or physically, such as punching walls or hurting someone else. You've been told that you have anger issues and need to get help. People are often afraid of your anger and try to avoid you when you're in a bad mood. I don't know how that's I don't know if that's supposed to, like, how that differentiates, because every one of those sounds like a bipolar, like a bipolar symptom. So that, I don't know, that part of my research kind of, I must have jumbled that somehow or something, because that doesn't make any sense to me, that even though, like, those all sound like actual, like, they sound like bipolar issues, often gotten in trouble at work or with the law. That's not necessarily just bipolar, that's ADHD too, so frequently lashing out verbally or physically, such as punching walls or hurting someone else. I never hurt anybody else, but I have beat the shit out of some walls. I worked construction for a little while, and I did demolition, which wasn't the only part of the construction that I did, but demolition was my favorite fucking part, because I loved tearing shit down. Like, you give me a hammer and a crowbar, and I'll have your entire house gutted in a day. I'll guarantee it. I'll have all the fucking walls knocked down, all the sheetrock gone, everything but the frame, and everything but the frame will be gone. All the insulation, all the fucking everything. Door, like, molding, receptacles, everything. Anything and everything, you want it gone, it'll be gone. I'll have it done in a day, because I give me some headphones, a hammer, and a crowbar, and I'll have your shit done in a day. Just because I'll put my foot through the fucking wall and then rip the whole damn wall down. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, for me, it was, whenever I did it, it was a healthy way for me to get a lot of my anger issues out. This is kind of funny to me. So, remember the acronym HALT, and if possible, don't let yourself get angry or hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, especially if these symptoms are known to trigger a bipolar episode for you. If you're angry because someone hurt your feelings, boo fucking who, negated your perceptions, or did anything else that triggered your anger, decide the best way to handle it at that moment. This means knowing yourself and who you're dealing with. I say boo-hoo because somebody hurt your feelings. I say that because I grew up in a time where if somebody hurt your feelings, you kind of just sucked it up, or you duked it out, and then you shook hands, and then you moved on with your day. Somebody called you an asshole, you called them an asshole. They hit you in the face, you hit them in the face. A little bit of blood come out, everybody was done. That end of the day. Move on. You shake hands, say, good job, sorry, whatever, and you move the fuck on with your life. This whole deal today where people are like, oh, he hurt my feelings, so now I'm gonna have to file a fucking lawsuit or this other bullshit, or contact HR because he said that my hair looked nice. He must have been hitting on me, and there must have been, you know what I mean? Like, and that could go both ways. Both ways. I'm not trying to, again, I don't mean to be like gender specific, or I hate coming across that way, because I do not discriminate one way or the other. I really could give two shits less about any of that. The only thing that I care about is whether or not you have bipolar, your symptoms are getting better, and mostly, what I mostly care about is just whether or not you feel like that you have somebody to relate to. There's more to this, but I've been talking for 45 minutes, and this is a long ass episode, and I kudos to you if you listen to the whole thing. I know that a lot of times, just from analytics, I know that a lot of times most people don't listen to the entire episode, and 45 minutes is a long time. So I hope that this helped a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and get off of here and maybe go to the gym or something. But I just wanted to kind of go over this anger and bipolar disorder a little bit. I hope it helped. I hope that somebody got something out of it, and that you realize that, you know, just because you're angry doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you need to go to classes or anything like that. Like, especially if you have bipolar disorder. If you have bipolar disorder and you have anger issues, seek help. Obviously try and get some kind of help to manage that, but don't beat yourself up or make yourself feel like shit because you have a disease that is uncontrollable and can cause episodes of anger or irritability without you even meaning to or wanting to. It just happens. So don't feel like you're alone in this. Don't feel like there's nobody that understands what you're going through, because there is. And always, always, always remember, you don't have to sit in the dark alone.